Dacă tot se spune că la politică și la fotbal se pricepe toată lumea, iată că Uniunea Europeană ne dă șansa fiecăruia dintre noi să demonstrăm prima parte a zicalei. Ne plângem că nu înțelegem mare lucru din ce se întâmplă la Bruxelles, iar critica este fondată pe adevăr. Acum avem ocazia să le vorbim politicienilor despre problemele majore pe care încă le au sistemele naționale. Europa vrea o viață mai bună pentru cetățenii ei, așa că întreabă ce nu merge ca să poată îmbunătăți. Manfred Weber, liderul Popularilor Europeni, și Siegfried Mureșan, europarlamentar în același partid, ne dau mai multe amănunte. Sunt Cristina Cileacu. Începe Pașaport diplomatic. Manfred Weber, Siegfried Mureșan, welcome to Diplomatic Passport.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thank you.
I will start with you, Mr. Weber. Europe that in this very moment is aware that has a lot to change, but changes usually requires quite a lot of time. And this time Europe is asking its citizens about these changes, about its future and so on and so forth. But again, we don't have enough time. So when can we expect some results of this improvement we are working on?
First of all, you are absolutely right that we have currently, first of all, to manage the current pandemic, so the crisis. But the real challenge is how to make out of this exercise now, to manage the crisis, to overcome the crisis, a real success story for the long run. That means for us, prepare for the next challenge. Not to wait for the next problem, but to prepare for it. That is what we want to do. And for doing so, the best is to listen to our citizens. That is what is the idea of this conference for the future of Europe, to really go now out in the streets, to really offer some platforms to discuss among each other. And I'm sure that, for example, when I speak with my people in my constituency, for example, they demand a lot on the health union. Corona is already an example. Vaccination is already an example. And to go further, with fight against cancer, for example, against Alzheimer, all these points which are really in the daily life of people important, there Europe can deliver a lot. And again, starting with listening, then politicians have to deliver.
Mr. Siegfried Mureșan, I want to ask you about Romania, since of course you are Romanian and know very well our problems. Of course, we are the country with, where the majority of the citizens is pro-European, but on the same time we can see the increase of the people that consider that we are better outside European Union. I'm talking about those that make a confusion between nationalism and patriotism. What is your message to them?
Look, as a politician, our duty is to provide solutions to the problems that people are facing. This is why our objective will be, also in this context about the future of Europe, our objective will be to convince people that pro-European parties, in our case, center-right parties, members of the European People's Party, we have solutions to the problems which people are facing. And we saw whenever nationalism, extremism, Eurosceptic parties had a chance in any member state of the European Union, at the end the people had to suffer. In Greece, the extreme left Syriza party of Alexis Tsipras did bad things for the country. In Italy, Salvini, the extreme right, put Italy also in risks, in dangers. And the best example is Brexit, with the extreme anti-Europeans, which unfortunately took the United Kingdom out of the European Union. Our duty is to show to the people that these extreme politicians, who are very loud, sometimes unpolite, they do not have solutions to the problems of the people. What they preach, very often they do not respect themselves, but for sure it doesn't work in reality. They do not have solutions, while we have solutions, and we need to make sure that no one is left behind. And we saw this even during the pandemic now. The European Union bought vaccines for all people in all member states in absolutely the same number, the same quantity. So in all of the future steps of development, the process to greening, digitalization, we need to make sure that this works for all people, all enterprises, and no one is left behind.
But Mr. Weber, okay, your party has solutions, but how can you convince as politicians the people that your solutions are good and those solutions that are brought by nationalist parties are less good? Because if we look at the polls all over Europe, the numbers are quite the same. The differences are very small.
Well, the real test is always the reality, the proof, and what Siegfried said. So what is really a big shame is that Brexit delivers now that young Romanians cannot anymore study in their Erasmus year in Great Britain, in Cambridge and Oxford. They are blocked now. And is this the world we want to live in tomorrow? Is this the world? I don't think so. And a lot of Romanians will think so. So you have a proof for this. And you see all over Europe, in Netherlands, we had elections a few weeks ago where you saw the populists going down. Nobody believes that left or right populists would manage the corona crisis in a better way. And nobody. In Germany, in Spain, nobody is thinking so. That's why reality is the real test for this. And again, the last months were extremely difficult. And all those who were in power, like our party in Romania, we felt really the pressure and the demands from our citizens. But having now a summer in front of us, vaccination is getting better, we have a fair distribution of vaccines all over Europe, we can show that European approach is the right approach to deliver. And again, what I think is really now exciting is that I want to see now a competition about the future of Europe in this conference. And I want to see that we as Christian Democrats, as EPP, we are convincing by interesting ideas and fresh ideas, by even visionary things. And I want to dream a little bit about the future of Europe. For example, to make Europe more democratic. Why not to vote in the future for a president of the European Union? So it's a long-term project, I know, but why not to dream about these things, about bringing people closer to Brussels, bringing people closer to the European decision-making process. We as MEPs, we try to do this every day, but we need another boost, another democratic revolution for Europe. That is what we dream about as EPP, and I hope we can convince a lot of people about this.
Mr. Mureșan, do you think that Romanian people will follow this dream that Mr. Weber is talking about, considering as well that in general, although we do like European Union, as I said, but in general we have this tendency of saying, oh, these people from Brussels, they are so boring, we don't understand exactly what they do and so on?
Look, the specificity about Romania is that the people of Romania are pro-European and they see the benefits of the European Union. Young Romanian citizens can choose freely now where they want to study in every member state of the European Union. Many Romanian citizens choose freely where to live, where to work within the European Union. So we are definitely above average when it comes to how pro-European we are in comparison to other member states. The second part of your question, do we feel Brussels is far away and so on? I think this is not necessarily a specificity of Romania. These questions exist in all member states of the Union, and we have to be honest. We, as elected politicians in the European Parliament, have to do better as well. We have to go to the people, talk about what they are interested in, go meet them where they are, and we also have to present facts, because many things about Europe which Eurosceptics present, that we are bureaucratic, that the EU is expensive and so on, they simply are not true. The European Parliament is in many aspects as transparent, or in some aspects even more transparent than many of the national parliaments of the member states of the European Union, in terms of making all of our meetings in specialized committees, in the plenary and so on public. The European Parliament is not less transparent than many national parliaments, but what we have to do is to find ourselves a way to talk about these things in a way in which it is relevant for the people. And this is why what Chairman Weber said before is so important. This conference about the future of Europe shall be the process in which we ask the people how they want Europe to look in the future. We as EPP have ideas. We want Europe to be more democratic, to be more innovative, more modern, to have a strong economy based on innovative small and medium-sized enterprises, to support young entrepreneurs, to support research in Europe, to do more for health because people expect this. These are our ideas, but we're going to ask the questions to the people, and our intention is to clearly deliver what the people expect from Europe in the next years.
Mr. Weber, if you ask me as a European citizen, and this time not as journalist, what I want for the future of Europe, I would say that I would want a strong voice of European Union when it comes to foreign affairs. What do you think Europe can do from this point of view? Because what we see now looks rather like a weak image. It's not a weak image, but it looks like one.
That is, and I thank you so much for your opinion on this, that is the key question for the European Union this decade. Can we manage to create a European voice on the global table, negotiation table, yes or not? Huh? And imagine when people are sitting together on the global leadership level, who should raise his hand and should say, I'm in favor of market economy, but I want to have a social market economy. Will the Americans do so? Will Russia do so? Will China do so? No, we Europeans have to do it. Will somebody raise his hand and will say, we have to look for climate change, for environmental protection? So I'm not sure who will do so, but we as Europeans are convinced about this. And finally, when it is about the question, there are international conflicts like we see in Ukraine, in Russia and so on. Who will raise his hand and will say, sorry, let's solve the problems in a diplomatic way, not first of all with guns in our hand. Let's invest in diplomacy. Let's invest in a value-based exchange of our arguments. That is what Europe can contribute. We learned this after the Second World War. We overcome then the split of our continent. And that's why we have to contribute a lot to this development. But the precondition is to be united. And there, I tell you, we have to talk also about working structure. For the moment, we can only act on global level if we have unanimous support among all 27 countries. And you have always one single member inside of this club who is opposing to an idea. That's why let's overcome this. We only can create a European strong voice if we come to the basic principle of democratic decision-making process, and that means majority-making decision process. That is what we need now on European level.
But how can this be done? Because this is a subject that is on the table for quite a long time.
Well, we cannot overcome this by forcing people to do so. Europe is we are a union of people of countries who voluntarily want to come together. We are not a state. We cannot impose things to the member states. We need the recognition that this is an advantage for all of us. And that is what we have to discuss. We have to come to this understanding. But if I may be clear, I think in the next 10 years we decide a lot about the future of Europe, because the next 10 years will be decisive. And I would even go so far. I would say if we have only 1 or 2 countries in the future who will block the strengthening of the European Union, then we have even to consider to do the next step of European unification without some. So we cannot wait anymore for the slowest one, for those who are not capable to understand the realities of this world. And that's why this decision-making process is key. It's sometimes a little bit technical, but it is key.
Mr. Mureșan, since we are talking about solidarity in European Union, of course we have to talk about the resilience and recovery plan. And in case of Romania, again I'm addressing you as Romanian, it looks like our authorities didn't quite understand those 2 important components when it comes to digital and green. Do you think we will manage in the end to have a good plan like the rest of the countries?
Yes, of course we will. The truth is we are now doing the biggest package of economic support ever created at European level. 750 billion euros, more money than ever. And when the European Commission proposed this, they said money should go into 2 directions, greening and digital. And we in the European Parliament came and we said the needs of Europe are more diverse. Yes, we support the transformation to digital and greening, but in the 27 member states of the Union, needs are more diverse. And we said money should also be able to be used for modernizing and enlarging existing hospitals, or for building new hospitals where they are needed, to build infrastructure where it still needs to be built, to incentivize research, innovation and so on. So basically now, by respecting European rules, money can be used in 6 areas thanks to the involvement of the Parliament, not only in 2, greening digital, economic cohesion, social cohesion, institutional resilience and money for youth. And it is the first time that we're doing such a package of economic support. And it is also a bit learning by doing. We adopted the legislation at European level, and now each of the member states of the European Union, they have to present to the European Commission their plans on how money should be absorbed. And I can tell you that we had this morning the first official dialogue between the European Parliament and the European Commission, and the European Commission has confirmed that the plans which are submitted so far, after discussions between the Commission and the Member States, they are fulfilling the targets on digital and greening. The main challenge will be to use money for reforms, to make our economy stronger, to make sure that, because this fund is called Recovery and Resilience Fund, so to make sure that we strengthen our countries, our economies, our public administration, make them more modern, more digital, strengthen them in a way in which a future crisis cannot hit and will not find us unprepared as this one found us. Also strengthen our medical system. So the short answer to your question is yes, I'm sure that in the end we're now, as Romanian government, in a normal phase of dialogue with the European Commission, like all states, but this dialogue is going into the right direction. So to answer your question, I'm sure the plan handed in by the Romanian government will fulfill the European conditions on greening and digital when it will be formally submitted in the next weeks.
The next question is for both of you, but I will start again with Mr. Weber. At the level of European Union, of course, there are differences, as Mr. Mureșan said, economical, social, and so on, but also there are differences when it comes to mentalities of each of our people. Since we are talking about the future of Europe, will the wills of the people and the opinions of the European citizens won't be too different in order to have a general decision when it comes on the future of Europe?
I think everybody can contribute and everybody is invited. There is no first and second class European. Especially the vaccination gives you a clear proof on this. There was the biggest demand now in all countries that you have to vaccinate people. But we managed that in Germany, in Romania, in Italy, in Lithuania, we have the equal access to vaccines. So there is no first and second class European. I think that is probably the most important message in these times, to guarantee this. And that's the same for the access to this future dialogue. It's more about the question, not about the national background. I think it's more about the question, are there good ideas? Is there motivation now? Are there fresh ideas? That is what we are looking for, and that is what Europe is looking for. And I'm sure that a lot of people in Romania will have good ideas. You mentioned the salaries and this question of still feeling falling behind, lagging behind in the process. First of all, I would say in the last years, the development in Romania was already very positive. So people feel that Europe, we benefit from being part of such a big market. But I tell you, this aspect of a social Europe, of a social market economy, is deeply in our mind when we as Christian Democrats speak about this. We don't want to unify everything and harmonize everything. That's not the substance. But the substance is that we believe in social market economy. And that's why this cooperation between trade unions and the employers on the other side, this good dialogue, that is in the essence of everything, and that has to be strengthened all over Europe to create really a European social market economy model for the future.
Look, of course, I mean, I agree. Everything of what the chairman said,
you know, is something you have to agree.
Is something that, no, but what I want to say is everything that the chairman is saying is, you know, the result of discussions and debates which we had within our political family. And, you know, if I look also for Romania at all types of figures, it's clear that 14 years after us joining the European Union, we're better off in terms of salaries in all economic categories. And just now, I was looking at the newest figures, and since Romania joined the European Union on the 1st of January 2007, we have contributed 21 billion euros to the budget of the European Union. This is how much Romania paid into the budget of the European Union, 21 billion. And we have benefited, we have received in the same period of time 63 billion euros. We paid 21, we received 63. We received 3 times the amount that we paid in. So it's clear that the membership in the European Union helped Romania develop its infrastructure, strengthen its economy, make it more competitive. Of course, as citizens, we wish things to happen quicker, but the direction is clearly correct. And linked to what the chairman said before, the convergence within the European Union, I think the funds that we are just now deciding on are the best opportunity to do this. In the next years, Europe will spend more money than ever. It's more important than ever that we spend this money well, that we make our economies more competitive, that where we still have to build the highways, that we finish them, that we modernize the railways, that we modernize our digital, our energy infrastructure, reduce our energy dependence, make energy production greener and cleaner. So EU funds are really an opportunity for transforming the economies, for converging and for reducing the discrepancies where they still exist. But one thing is certain, discrepancies were already reducing in the last years, and this is also a lot due to what the chairman said: we are all part of the same single market in the European Union, but also due to the support of EU funds that we received.
And I have to clarify one point. So Siegfried Mureșan, there is no must to follow the president. You know, Siegfried is a very tough person when it is about defending the Romanian interests in our group, and he is very successful on this. But finally, as friends, as a team, we try to be then united, and that's exactly the idea of Europe. Strong national backgrounds, strong national interests, but finally understand that we only can defend this national interest if we join together, if we have a common position. So only to clarify this.
Yeah, it was a joke. Manfred Weber, President of European People Party, and Siegfried Mureșan, Euro parliamentary of the same party. Thank you so much for this interview.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Atât pentru astăzi, dar rămânem în continuare online pe pagina de Facebook a emisiunii și pe contul nostru de Twitter. Revenim cu subiecte noi din lumea diplomației și a politicii externe vinerea viitoare de la 11:30 și reluare sâmbătă de la 22:30. La revedere!